What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast, the Trevor Sean Audiocast. If you've never been here before, which I'm going to say this for like a million years, so I apologize for the redundant uh, intro all the time, but it's because probably not a lot of people know what's going on with this thing. So, if you're a regular, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoy this episode, but yeah, I created this just as a space to document my journey for building a successful, valuable life. So just kind of like a little docu-series that I'm going through it freaking real time, trying to really dive into what makes a successful life and how to achieve that, and also creating a valuable life. So yeah, welcome to the podcast if you're new. Hope you guys find some type of value throughout this thing of me just talking. So anyway, episode 20. Episode 20, dude. This is cool. Hitting to the 2-0. I'm excited, man. I always say that too. But I am. I'm always excited. It's freaking late right now. 103. Took me a little bit extra time to get down here to record for this last week. So I told myself today was the day, no matter how long or whatever happens. And I'm working on that grit, so sticking to it no matter what. And right now, I'm grinding through it, and I'm gonna wake up on time, get my workout in, and just freaking keep going. So I'm really excited about it. Yeah, just keep grinding. So one thing I just want to bring up is I know I cover a lot of topics that I like, obviously, because I'm the only one freaking talking, and this is a relatively small podcast. However, I would like to open it up if there are some regulars out there that have been listening, and if some of my topics are getting maybe a little boring, or there's something that you might want to, I don't know, want to dive into and listen to my take on, I'm totally down for it. So there's a couple ways to get in touch with me. You can hit me up on social. So Trevor Sean 12, and that's on Instagram and Twitter. Or you can email me, trevor.sean@outlook.com. Or you can also Anchor, if you're familiar with Anchor, has the ability to, if you watch it on their app, you can actually leave me a voice note. So, and I can even feature you on the podcast if you do that. So that'd be kind of tight. Either way, yeah. If there's something that I'm not covering or something that, because the reason I bring that up is I am in the process of going through a lot of different types of things, and obviously I'm reading a lot of books, going and consuming different types of podcasts and YouTube's, things like that. So obviously, and also like just different types of mentorship through networking and things like that. Asking people and you know observing, looking at things. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of check out different types of strategies and ideas and stuff like that I'm pretty obsessed with. And so if one of you guys out there has something that you're interested in or that you're checking out that you really dig, definitely share it. I would love to dive into it. And I mean, I'm literally just like use case every week on things that I find interesting and that I want to work on and try out to see how easily, well, not easily, but how you can implement it into your life to help you work through things and get better. So yeah, check it out. Let me know. I'll link all that contact info in the description on the podcast and also on the YouTube. So anyway, topics for today. I'm going to try to go fast because I don't want to stay up super late, and because I don't know, I feel like this is kind of like a rant, a quick like rant. I've been a little pissed off at myself for just being a little inconsistent, so I just kind of want to rant about a couple things. So the first topic is goals for May. Finally got it done. Not today. It's the 25th. I'm recording this 1 o'clock in the morning on May 25th. I did get them done like the 10th, so that was good. So not even before halfway through the month, so that's awesome. So we'll talk about those and the significance of that, and also the the other topic is stop doing stupid shit. So I'm excited to talk about that too. All right, so just diving right in here, since I don't have any sponsors to read off or anything. Um, Goals for May, man. I felt like, I mean, I told you guys last episode, I was like dragging making goals for a while. I gotta look it up now. I can't remember the last time I made a damn goal. Oh, it's a little embarrassing. I don't know if I'm gonna say it again. November of last year. Now listen, like I always have like things written down of. I mean, I obviously have that as a reference, and a lot of those goals haven't changed too much. However, I do feel like this is just for me, man. Everyone's different. Number one rule that I found. Number one thing, you have to have goals. I don't care what the frequency is. I don't care uh, if you have to rewrite them every week, every month, whatever works for you, man. But it's super important to be able to write them down and understand where you are. Secondly, I do feel like timelines matter. And so, what I've been doing lately and working on is trying to set a monthly goal, trying to create some like habits. And so, there's things that I want to achieve in a way. For example, like one of my goals is like to read a book in May, and so I try to do like, you know, obviously reading a book takes, I don't know what, like 15 minutes a day to read one book in a month. So that's not too terrible. I think even 15 minutes a day would allow you to read two books depending on how long the other one is. So anyways, it's kind of like an idea of like some monthly type goals that I set. I also have like writing goals to be able to write for 10 minutes or whatever. I've also been trying to play, I'm kind of obsessed with this idea of like gamifying things. And so I can't remember the philosopher's name. I think it's Nietzsche. Um but he talked a lot about like the importance of games and like understanding the rules of the game and making it interesting and playable so that you continue to play it and try to win the game. And so the reason I say that is sometimes it's fun to set these goals to where it's a little bit more of an achievable like game or something like that, where you would, for example, in my writing analogy, I would write and I'd have to write 15 days in a row, which for me right now is a little bit difficult. It's like that would be a tough thing for 15 days. It'd be tough for me to do 10 days right now, I think. But it also helps reinforce the habit that you want to create, and also makes it kind of fun where you can kind of start keeping track of a streak or something like that. Same thing with reading, exercise, blah, 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 whatever. So that's just like one way of trying to gamify things. So anyways, not that you guys need any examples for any type of like goal setting, but the other thing that I wrote down is to simplify it. So there's like two schools of thought that I've been noticing. One really famous quote is from Elon Musk, where he's like, whatever time frame that you set yourself to accomplish something, you will rise to that time frame. And so I think what he means by that, and I agree with this, is our capacity to be able to really crank through things and accomplish stuff is very, very high, and it's an awesome thing. However, it really kind of depends on the state of your current life, and I think that matters. And so the other side of it is Jordan Peterson's way, where he talks a lot about setting goals that are achievable. And that's no joke either. So yeah, we could read a whole book in a day for sure. And I think if you set that goal and you really want to do it, you could totally do it. You could find time and you can crank it out, and that's fine. I also I don't think it's realistic to say I'm going to read 10 books in a month and like, grind through that. I just don't know if that would be the best use of your time and resources, and who knows if you would get as much out of it. And again, all these types of things are like, you got to figure out what's the best way to do it for you. And so I'm trying to find like the medium here, where it's like taking the Jordan Peterson method, where setting a goal that's achievable, it reinforces the progress that you're making, even if it's so small. Like if you're literally, and he talks about this, even if you're just like reading, for example, if you start reading for like 2 minutes a day. I know that sounds super ridiculous, but if you set a timer and start reading for 2 hours, or not 2 hours, 2 minutes a day, and you hit that, then you can be like, oh, dude, I did it. And then once you kind of get bored of 2 minutes because you're like, oh my gosh, it's literally 2 minutes, then you can up it and do like 3 minutes and 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden by the end of the month, if you literally just upped it by, I don't know, a minute every 5 days, then at the end of the month, you're reading 10 minutes on that last week, which that's not nothing, you know? And then the next month, maybe you consistently read 10 minutes for the entire month. And then after that, you bump it up to 15. It's like you can start to see these building habits and making some really significant progress, which I think is like so important. It's really important to be able to create those things. And habits definitely aren't made in these crazy binge sessions where you just crank it out as much as you can. There's definitely necessity for that in a lot of different ways. I just don't. I'm at this point in my life, I'm trying to create things that are just like really sustainable, and I'm trying to figure out what activities are the most important to make sustainable. And so for me, a couple of those would be exercise, reading, writing. Those are three big ones for me. And then the other one is, so I broke that down. And then I also did like my professional work, which is obviously really important to me, and I think it should be important to everybody. It's like what kind of work are you accomplishing on a daily basis that gives value to the world, and then also reinforces your own ability and value for yourself, right? So I have my day job where I have different types of sale goals and things like that I do, and I try to really break down the activity that I need to do on a daily basis to become better at my job there. And then also I have like my side hustle, so this would be a part of that. Funny note, I did make one that says 1 episode a week, so I do need to catch up on one, and I am planning on running another episode that's a little bit more. I'm actually really excited about it. I'm going to be talking about the power of writing, and I don't even know what that means because man, writing and like reading is such an interesting activity. It's really, I'm really fascinated with it right now. But anyways, that's kind of where I'm at, and that's kind of like the stuff that I've been doing. And the other note about that is, so anyways, keep those two things in mind. It's like our capacity to be able to achieve things is great, but you also got to set yourself up for success and make sure that you can see the progress and keep going, and then continue to challenge yourself at whatever your capacity is. And before you know it, you have a crazy habit and you're making some really, really solid progress, which is really cool. Yeah, and obviously consistency, I wrote that down too. Oh, and this was a big one. This is a big one for me, dude. Whenever I sit down to write goals, I have some plans, dude. I want to like, I want to do a lot of stuff. And that's part of my personality deficiency where I just like, I get interested in so many different things. I'm just like, oh, I want to do that and that and that and that and that. And it's like, if you really realistically look at it, it's like, dude, it's hard for me to do one of these crazy podcasts, which I've made into a super, super simple system. And I gotta like pump the brakes a little bit. And the one thing about that is trying to focus on one thing at a time to get it to a point where you're efficient and good at it, I think matters more than trying to do 4 things, semi well or whatever, decent or anything like that. Really got to try to understand what you want to focus on and then dive deep into that. And another thing about that, especially going back to the book Grit and some of the things I learned from that book, is you really want to give the appropriate amount of resources and attention and effort into those things to make it worthwhile. You can't just like show up and, I mean, obviously showing up is important, but you gotta put forth the effort into it. Otherwise, it's not really gonna amount to anything. Like even this podcast is a good example. Like I could probably do a few things with it to make it a little bit more appealing, especially from the um, viewing side of things. And so that's something I've been considering where I gotta update some, different types of graphics and make the video editing a little bit better maybe. But I'm also at this point just trying to like get the consistency down and get down here. So anyway, couple things to think about. Moving on though. All right, this topic's been like really getting at me lately, where it just kind of hit me. So right now, if you can't tell, I'm in this big Jordan Peterson kick. So I've been reading a second book, which is really good. I also got a couple new books, which have been a little bit distracting, but it's been good, man. It's like I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between these three books that I'm reading right now. But one video, I'll have to link it, that I came across is Jordan Peterson talks about how to stop doing the stupid things in your life that are really hurting you for the long run. And so for this section, I colorfully rewrote the title of Stop Doing Dumb Shit. And it's just so simple and dumb, but it does make a huge difference, and it's pretty crazy. So we all have these things that we want to do and accomplish and grow and aspire to, all these things, and it's easy to understand those things and have these interests that you want to chase and grind for, and that's completely understandable. The one thing that we miss is the other side of it, is thinking about the activities that you do on a daily basis that are hurting you and your chances of doing those things. And so that's something that that's just like the efficiency model, right? It's like get better at certain things and stop doing other things that are hurting that, and your efficiency will go up and you'll start to feel better and better, right? It's a simple concept, which is good, very difficult to do in a lot of ways. Like one of my biggest things that's very difficult to do is going to bed late. And I mean, today is an example, but I'm making an exception today because I was like, I'm doing the grit model. However, I could have set myself up better today to get to bed on time, which would help me wake up on time and all those types of things, right? So he makes a suggestion of like really sitting down, and I actually wrote down a huge list of things that I'm doing right now that I consider that are hurting me. And the one qualification that he made was, it doesn't take long for you to really sit down and think and be like, dude, what kind of stuff am I doing that when I'm doing them, I'm either like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, or it's taken away from this, or I wish I was doing this instead of what I'm doing right now, or whatever. And that way you can really start to identify the types of activities that you're doing, or the things that you're doing, or the shit that you're doing that is really just not fulfilling and it's wasting time. That's really what it comes down to. And going through his lectures and reading his books, and also just kind of understanding the general evolution of, going from a child to the teen to a young adult to a mature adult, is starting to really grasp with the idea that we just can't be good at everything. I mean, the potential for that when you're young is fun and it's interesting, and that's what it should be. Should be curious about trying a bunch of different things. Once you start getting older, you really got to start diving deeper into certain subjects and going down that path long enough, grit, to be decent and good at something, and then either continuing down that path or understanding the other types of paths that are open to you based off that grind and that effort that you put in to do those things. And so I think that really matters. And to do those things, you have to evaluate your life, and you just don't have as much time to do as many things. I'm not saying that you have to like rework your entire life, and this is a concept I want to dive into a little bit deeper. But there is this idea that I'm also pretty obsessed with, where it's like you can't. Oh, what was I gonna say? I got it. So we all have this person who we've been for whatever amount of years. And I'm not talking about like early childhood. I mean, that matters for sure, and those stories matter. However, if you think about the person that you start to become when you're in high school and you're a teen, and then your young adult lives, and you're starting to go through this, you've been this person for a little while, you know, whatever you've been, and that's great, and that needs to happen. But you got to allow yourself to hit to your next phase, and if you don't do that, then you're stuck and you can't move. And so this is an idea that I really want to elaborate on more than what I'm going to do today, but it's just something interesting to think about. Something I've realized for myself is there's a lot of what I've wanted to hold on to from my earlier years. Like I don't know what kind of phase I'm really talking about, but like maybe let's just talk about in the sense of decades. It's like from my 20s, where I was a little bit more free-flowing and social, and had more time to be able to go do social events and, you know, hang out with families and friends and do a lot of more entertainment type things. And I was interested in that, and that worked, and that was good. And like, and I'm talking like, I don't know, maybe played more video games and watched more games and all that kind of stuff. And that's cool. But maybe now, and I know this, and I've thought about a lot about it, which is why I want to do a deeper dive into it, but there's just like activities that I do now that I'm just like not as satisfied with anymore. Like I remember I used to be able to sit at home and watch college football all day long, and I loved it when I was younger, just because I was really into that phase. And now if I did that, I would like lose my mind, because it's just like I love it still, but I also know there's other things that I need to do, that the football's taken up too much of my time. And so I definitely still watch highlights, and I can see all the scores, and like, you know, I watch a couple games every week for sure. But the idea of like watching that much now, it just doesn't resonate with me anymore, because there's other things that I know deep inside me that are pulling me towards to go do. And so I think that's an idea that we all need to really think about as we mature and grow. What is the next phase for me to grow and mature into? And it's hard, man. It's really hard. I mean, I'm talking from experience here, but I think you really need to grapple with the idea of there's a lot of things you need to let go in order to allow yourself to become the next person. And I mean, one of the best examples of that is like Joe Rogan. It's kind of cool to see his progression from, you know, TV host and all this kind of stuff. And if you look at him now, he literally looks, and he is a different person than what he used to be. And I know he still does comedy and all that kind of stuff, but he's a different comic too. He's a different comic. He is a completely different person. He's like really molded into another person. And I think that's a great example of like what that means. And same thing with Jordan Peterson. I mean, if anyone's followed him at all, it's like you can really see the different types of stages that he's taken in his life. And I think we all can. If you really observe people, you can see the different types of phases that these successful, driven people go through, where it's like, yeah, dude, you have time to go do things when you're younger and you're figuring things out, and so things aren't as important at that time. But then you have kids, you have a family, you have responsibilities, you start to have career paths where you're making very valuable work and putting that out into the world, and that stuff matters, and there's a lot more people counting on you, and you have networks that you have to talk to, and there's just different activities that you need to do in order to keep up with all of those responsibilities. And so there's other things that just have to go. It's just inevitable, you know. You don't have to let go of everything, but you definitely have to sharpen everything up. And so anyways, we'll have to dive into that, because I really like the idea of that, and I'm not quite sure what that means. But one thing I do know that's been plaguing at me is I feel like I've been scared to let go of that person in exchange for the person I could be, and like continue to grow. And I think the one thing that I've really come to understand and grasp is that person that I was, that doesn't ever go away. That's there forever. But it's time for me to be a newer, better version of myself and continue to grow. And so, anyways, think about that. I think that's a good concept and maybe a good way to end this podcast. So, those are the 2 topics I had. I hope you guys found something valuable and at least got your brains turning to think about some different ways to approach life and your goals, and also just kind of like your daily activities. And I guess the question that I would ask you guys, or that you should try to think about and ask yourselves this week, is like, what's my next phase, and what am I kind of working towards and growing towards? Because we're growth-oriented creatures, man. We want to continue to get it to the next level. And so what is that next level for you? Is it, I don't know, graduating college? Is it getting a career? Is it moving careers? Is it writing a book? Whatever. I don't know. What is it? So it's something to think about, and it's worth asking yourself, and it's worth writing down, because once you figure that out, these goals start to really orient themselves around that and start to take shape. And it's a cool feeling to have that written down and figured out, and something to kind of a pathway to go down. So hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Love you guys. Thanks again for checking everything out, and I'll catch you later this week. Peace out.